When I was in IBS Las Vegas, my nail buddy Selena Ryden did an awesome set of nails on me that are just absolutely beautiful. So today I wanted to show you the color combination that she came up with and also her methods on how to do it. And I even finished the rest of my nails except one, so I'm going to show you guys today how to do all of that. All right, let's get started. All right, so like I said, I had Selena do this hand for me, which was awesome to get my nails done. It's always so hard doing my right hand. And I finished all but this one nail. I wanted to save this one to show you guys exactly how to do this design and how to get that perfect glitter ombre fade like you've seen so many times. I'm just loving this color combination. I actually switched this one up a little bit on my other hand. So without further ado, let's get into how you do this particular design. Okay, so we are going to use several different Light Elegance gels today. For the colors, we're going to use Apple Teeny Glitter Gel and After Midnight, as well as Justice Buttercream. And then for the extension, Selena likes to use natural fiber so that it looks really natural underneath. It does a nice job of kind of giving that natural nail look. If you are like me and you like to leave it clear so that the color pops through, you can also do that as well. So depending on what your favorite clear gel is from the Light Elegance line, you can use a different clear gel to do your extension. I really love One Step. It's one of my favorite gels. So I'm gonna be using One Step for a lot of the stuff today. And then of course you're gonna need your favorite Light Elegance base coat. So I'm gonna be using Tack. And then to finish off the nail, I'm gonna be using Super Shiny, okay? In addition, you're gonna need a nail form, some tweezers to pinch the nail, and then some brushes. I'm gonna be using the gel polish brush and also the number 4 oval. I always leave glitter, I put glitter gel on the end of my brush so I know which one is for glitter. That way I don't end up getting glitter in any of my clear gels or in my color gels. And then some scissors to cut your nail form, and of course a nail file to file everything. All right, so I already have my nail prepped and cleaned, so I'm just gonna go straight into putting on my form. And depending on how you like to do it, I like to put the paper on the back just to give it a little bit more strength, but you definitely do not have to do that, okay? So I'm gonna open up my nail form like so. And then I'm just going to align it on my finger without completely closing it. I want to make sure I've got that center line straight on my finger like so. And I'm going to measure where my real sidewall comes out onto the nail form, okay? So I just kind of take a little look, and if I zoom in for you guys real quick, I'll show you. Okay, so you guys can see that right here, where my sidewall starts to hit the nail form, it's like right in between this black line and this black line. So that's where I'm gonna cut my notches. And if I look at the other side, it's about, well, no, it's a little bit inside of that maybe, okay? So make sure you've got that center line straight down your finger and, you know, straight down the bones of your finger, but also down your nail before you cut it. And you can see that actually my inside of my middle finger goes a little bit further than the outside. So that's really important to look at when you're gonna trim your form. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out just for another second. Okay, so now that I know where I'm gonna cut my notches, you can dent the form if you want to, just to give yourself an idea, or you can just eyeball it. So I'm gonna cut it right about here, and I'm gonna cut those 45-degree notches out of the paper so that I can relieve that pressure on the paper. The reason why I'm doing this is I don't want the nail form to go around the skin on my finger and create bulk on the sides of my nail. So I want to make sure that the paper just goes right underneath my finger, and you can see it just goes perfectly right underneath my nail, and there's no paper that's going to prevent the product from getting in there and being nice and tight and streamlined. And then if I look at it from the side, the other thing I want to be aware of is the angle in which I'm going to sculpt my nail. So I like it to be just straight out from, like if I look at my cuticle area back here, I like the nail form to come just about straight out so that the tip of it is going to be in line with that. And that means that the tip of my nail is gonna be nice and thin. I'm gonna get all the thickness I need right in this area, and then it's gonna be thin again at the cuticle. Okay, so I just take one quick look at that, make sure it's nice and straight. And then when I'm happy, I just push everything back towards my finger and secure everything nice and tight. Okay, and you can squeeze it underneath. One of the most common things that happens with this is that you get dents in your form. So if you do, just start over. It's really hard to get the dents out. I prefer to just start with a new nail form. But you can see right here that the angle, that tip is like, if I'm gonna put the tip right about here, it's gonna be nice and in line with that, okay? And then depending on the length that you're gonna do, I'll probably end up doing it about to the number 2, maybe a little bit past that so I have room to file, okay? I also like to close my nail form close to the length in which I'm going to do the actual extension itself. All right, so I'm gonna start with tack. And tack, although the instructions say you have to cure it, you actually do not have to cure it. It air dries as well. So I'm just going to apply a nice thin coat, and I'm gonna get really close to the skin without touching. Okay, and just basically wetting the nail like so. And then if you want, for extra adhesion, you can cure this for 30 seconds. So I'll do that just for a little bit. It just helps it dry. And the whole goal with this is that we want the nail plate to be extra sticky. This is the part that's really important to make sure that anything we put on top of the base layer is gonna adhere to the natural nail. So that's why our base layers are so important, and using a base like tack that's really, really sticky and curing it to make it extra sticky just ensures that extra adhesion. So if you wanna do that, you can, or if you feel confident with just air drying it, you can do that as well. Okay. So I've got my base layer here, and I'm gonna zoom in while we do this extension so you guys can see what I'm doing here, okay? So I've got that layer of tack on my natural nail, and now I'm going to do my base layer. So I'm gonna do one step. If you wanna use natural fiber, you can, totally optional. And if you wanna use a thicker gel, you can absolutely do that, just to make it so that it's easier for you to apply the gel without it running. But I really like one step. I just find it's a really nice consistency. It doesn't run, it's sticky, and it just creates a nice thin extension. So I'm just gonna build this out, and what I'm trying to do is just attach my natural nail to the extension that I'm creating, especially on the sides, and just kind of sketching out the overall shape and length that I want. Just making sure I attach those corners, getting all the way up in there. You can blend it onto the natural nail if you want. I like to do my extensions in 2 parts because I'm going to do the actual sculptured nail in a second. And then from the side, it should be relatively smooth as well. You can even turn it upside down if you want to. I'm just going to fix this before it goes in the lamp. Okay, and then I'm just gonna flash cure this so I can pinch it. So the flash curing is really the part that allows me to solidify the gel, but not all the way. And it also allows me to really create a nice pinched shape on my nail. So what I'm gonna do now that I've semi-cured this, okay, you can see it's nice and hard, but it's not cured all the way. So I'm gonna be able to manipulate the shape of the gel just ever so slightly, just by pinching right here, mainly where my natural nail meets the extension, right about there. Can you see how it just tucks those corners in? And then I can squeeze all the way down the actual extension just to get a nice tight hold. You don't want to hold the pinch too long because you just don't want to cut off circulation to the nail plate. But this is really just going to make everything look a lot nicer. Okay? So just hold for a couple seconds and then straight back in the lamp for a full cure. A lot of people ask me about pinching. Do you have to pinch every single nail? Is it optional? It definitely is optional. In the beginning when I did extensions, I never did pinching. It was too overwhelming compared to everything else that I already had to do during the service. So if you feel overwhelmed by pinching, maybe just do it on dominant fingers like thumbs and pointers. It really helps just to create that streamlined shape and that look. And it also creates strength because we're creating that C curve underneath the nail. So you can get away with a nice thin gel nail that's very, very strong. And especially on dominant fingers, they get used a lot. It does help a lot with strength and durability. Okay, so now that I've got my nail out of the light, I'm gonna take off my nail form. I try to get nail forms out of the way as soon as humanly possible. I just find that clients don't do well with nail forms on their nails, okay? So you can see I've got my nice thin gel extension. From the side, it's pretty well blended in with my natural nail. And the important part is that I've got gel all the way down to the sidewall, and then I've got the general length and shape that I'm looking for. Imagine that your gel extension is like a glued on nail tip. That's essentially what we're doing. And now we're gonna go in and create our base layer before we do our color and our glitter application. Okay, perfect. All right, so with the same one-step gel, I'm gonna go in and I wanna create a protective layer on my nail plate as well, because later on I wanna be able to e-file off the color and I don't wanna touch my natural nail again. So I'm going to take a nice thin layer of one step and just coat my natural nail from cuticle all the way down and just blend this out. And this is gonna be kind of my strength per se, my shape, just making sure that everything is nice and smooth. I'm actually going to bring this up just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that I've got enough product on my nail plate. And I'm going to build more strength later, so I'm not too worried about the full thing. But I just want to make sure I've got enough product on the nail so I'm not going to file through anything. And also trying to make my corners nice and smooth. Like so. Okay, and then I'm going to cure that. If you want to double pinch your nails, like, or if you've got a really, really wide nail, you can definitely do that as well. So don't be afraid to just flash cure this layer and pinch it again if you're really looking for that streamlined shape on a particular finger. I think everyone has a little bit of a wide, quote unquote, fat finger. And so I always try to pinch those fingers a little bit more so they look a little bit more streamlined. Okay, so I've got my base layer here. And you can see it's pretty nice and shiny. I'm actually going to clean this, and then I am going to file it just a teeny bit, and that's just so that I don't file through my color. It sounds a little bit weird, but it actually makes for a really nice long-lasting service. A lot of people look at this method and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so much work. It really isn't that much work, because if you think about it, the client's going to be wearing these nails for probably 4 weeks. And so if your clients only come every 4 weeks, why not actually do a really nice job and make sure that their service is going to last and last. Okay, so I'm going to just file a little bit on the sidewalls. And when I'm filing on my sidewalls, I actually try to keep my file straight up and down and just file on the sidewall itself. I'm not talking about the actual side edges where those blend in. So you can see I'm just doing the side to make sure that's nice and tapered. And then I can turn my finger to the side and file the general shape a little bit more, just to get it so that there's no extra bits before I start putting on the color. Okay, so you can see if I turn my hand all the way over, you can see I've got that lined up with my sidewall. I've got this part lined up with my sidewall, and then I can actually file the shape. So I'm going to look at the length of this nail, and so what I do is I line up the cuticle of both nails, and then I kind of look at, okay, where should it end? And I always leave myself a little bit of extra room so that I have the ability to fix the shape or anything. And usually the tip ends up being really, really thin. So I always leave myself a little bit of wiggle room. So just lining that up, almost. And I am using a 100-180 grit file. So for this part, I like to use the 100 side. Later on when I do my finish filing, I use actually both, depending on what I'm trying to do or how much I need to take off. But with gel, you really don't have to file that hard. It comes off really easily. Very, very easy to file gel. Okay, so I've got my general shape here, and then I'm just gonna go through a little bit on the surface, again, just to make sure that I don't have any bulk or any areas where I'm gonna file through my color. And I'm not too worried about lumps and bumps because I'm still gonna put on color and glitter, and both of those are gonna add some texture. So I'm just gonna go around the cuticle area, make sure that's all nice and smooth, and it's mainly on the side walls where you want to ensure that everything is super smooth. Okay, so just about like that. Just general shape, general length, no major lumps or bumps. And those side walls are going to be very smooth. That way when we put our color gel on, it's going to look good. And then the other thing I always look at is right here, straight down, making sure that it looks straight as far as the tip. So I'm going to bring this back just a teeny bit over here. And again, you can fix this a little bit at the end, but we don't want to file through our color, so I'm going to try and make sure it looks good before I get to that part. Okay, so I'm going to dust off my finger. And now we are ready for the fun part. All right, so I am going to use Justice Buttercream first. This is a really pretty shimmery blue color. And buttercream, you're going to apply it thin. So I'm going to use my other gel polish brush that I don't have any glitter on, so I know it's for color. And I'm just going to do a nice little dollop on my brush and start applying. Let me bring this up just a little bit. There we go, perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just, I always start kind of down here, 2/3 of the nail towards the tip. It just gives me room. And plus, the majority of the product I'm going to use on the end of the nail, not at the cuticle. So I always start about here. And then I'm going to push the product right up here, making a nice clean smile line shape. And I always work with wet layers or slip layers or wetting layers. So you'll see me a lot do one thin layer of gel. And then I typically go back and add a little bit more. Once I have that perimeter established and I've got that smooth line that I'm looking for, I can go in and just add a teeny bit more just to make it very opaque. And we're going to put glitter on top of this, so we don't need it to be a thick layer. Buttercream also doesn't do well when it's applied really, really thick. I just want to make sure that I have an even coating of color on the nail. And you can see I've got a big divot right in here. Who cares? I'm gonna put glitter and more clear gel on top. And if this was an appointment in a salon, I definitely don't wanna waste time trying to make sure that that base is perfectly smooth when I'm gonna put all that stuff on top of it anyway. Okay, so I've got my color down. I'm gonna cure this for 30 seconds. And that's something really important for you guys to realize is like, you know, when you see people doing tutorials online, we often take a lot of extra time to explain every nitty-gritty detail. But if I was doing these nails in the salon, I would be able to do these in probably an hour. What I try to do is always continue to work through the service. I don't get hung up on little things that I can fix later. I always try to use the next step to fix that part. Now, if it's a structural issue, it's something that is actually going to affect the strength of the nail, that's a different story. But something like this little divot that I have here, I'm going to be able to fill that in with all of my next layers. And even if I can't, I'm still going to float clear gel over the top. So I always try to keep moving through the service to really shave down my time. All right, so I have my color layer here, and then we're going to use those two glitter gel colors. So the first one is After Midnight, which is really pretty. That's the one I have over here, the blue. And then I have Apple Teeny. Apple Teeny is like a sheer, really shimmery color. I love this color so much. Okay, so with my glitter brush, my gel polish brush with the glitter that I put on the tip so I know it's for glitter, I'm gonna start with the darker color. You can start with the lighter one if you want, but I typically start with the one at the cuticle area. So I'm just gonna put, you know, a little dollop on my nail, and rather than painting like it's nail polish, I kind of push this around. It's gel, it's actually 100% gel. It's not nail polish, it's not like some of those gel polish hybrids that you have to paint on super thin. This is actually meant to be applied and mushed around, and it is hard gel, so it's going to add some strength to my design as well. So I just kind of bring this down and I'm just mushing it around until I'm happy with the way that it lays on the nail. Kind of blend it down into where I'm going to put that apple teeny, okay? So you can kind of see I'm doing like a little bit of a glitter fade here. And then I'm going to wipe off the glitter. And I'm going to do my apple teeny part while it's still wet. So I'm just going to take a small amount, start here on the tip. And if you want to, you could do this in 2 dry layers and just kind of blend them over the top of one another. But I'm just going to kind of take this as an opportunity to mix these 2 colors together. So when I get to where they meet, I just kind of smush everything, move it around, and kind of blend them back and forth like a little bit of an ombre. And I'm working with pretty thin layers, so you can see my nail isn't getting thick yet. I'm just doing a little bit at a time, and right here in the center, I just feel like it looks a little bit too solid. So I'll pull some of that apple teeny up into it just to kind of blend it a little bit more. Pull this down, and I try and keep my shape as I'm working. I want just a teeny bit more right here on the tip. So you can kind of see I can tap, I can push, I can pull, and that's really the secret to being good at gel, is getting out of that kind of padding mindset or the polish mindset. Instead of kind of, you know, really slamming down on it like you would with acrylic or painting it like as it was nail polish. I don't want to do that. I actually just want to kind of play with it, move it around, and barely touch it, and it will follow my brush. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks pretty. And then I'm going to cure this for 30 seconds. I really love working with these gels. They're just so pretty. The glitters really just excite me. I don't know how else to say it. Just why, I mean, how could glitter not be exciting? But yeah, I mean, I think the key to getting good with gel is realizing that you can play around with it. It doesn't dry until you put it into your nail lamp. And so you can really mess around with it, play with it, experiment a little bit. You don't have to be afraid that it's gonna dry on its own. And also when you're working with high quality gels, you don't have to worry about thin coats. Unless it's something where, you know, it absolutely says apply it extra thin. Most of the time with gel, you can get around with slip layers and kind of experimenting with applying layers of gel on top of one another, especially if you're using a high quality lamp as well that's able to get down in there and cure everything from the bottom up. That's why a lot of people recommend using the lamp that comes with your system, so it can cure all the stuff that you're putting on the nail at the same time. Okay, so you'll see that the color is different than these ones. These ones I actually did a slightly different color combination. I did Apple Teeny, but then I did Miss Hepburn on the top. And then these ones are the After Midnight, so you'll see that this and this, they're like more purpley. The only thing I was gonna say is my Apple Teeny is a slightly older formula, so it doesn't have as much of this like green color to it. It kind of is a little bit more like yellowy shimmer. The new formula is a little bit more green, like sea foam, and the older one is a little bit more kind of yellow. But I like both. It's really personal preference. Now I've cured this, and if I want to go back and add a little bit more, I can definitely do that. So since I've already got Apple Teeny on my finger, on my brush, sorry, I can put a little bit more right here at the tip and just kind of blend it up just to get a little bit more of an effect. And I can even push it up onto the After Midnight if I want a little bit more of a fade. And then I can put a little bit more After Midnight coming back down if I want to. 2 coats is definitely optional. I mean, 1 coat I had it covered. Sometimes I just do it to perfect the blending. And I'm picking up just a little bit of glitter and just kind of like mushing it around. Mainly in the center of my nail, not so much on the sides, because I don't want the sides of my nail to get thick. I'm trying to maintain that streamlined shape. And right in here, I want to make sure that this doesn't end up getting too wide looking. Okay, so I'm going to cure one more time. And then we are going to be ready to do our our protective clear gel layer over the top. Again, this is more, it's not so much the sandwich technique that Selena does, it's more just a protective coating. It also helps to encapsulate the glitter a little bit, so when you are finish filing, you're not filing off any of the finish on the glitter itself. And then we can smooth out the nail. We can even add extra strength if we want to. Primarily what we're gonna do is add extra gel down the center of the nail to really create kind of a mohawk shape. So if I'm looking down the nails like this, so if you guys were looking down my nails, you would see that the gel is concentrated right down the center. And then if we look at it from the side, it's also concentrated here where the apex is. So if you guys see this on my other camera, you'll see that it's really, really flat. And if you look at my other nails, I've got this nice apex built up. Okay. Oh, let's see if I can get my camera to focus. Oh, come on, focus for me. There we go. Okay. So I've got my apex built up on my other nail. I don't have that built up on this one. It's still super, super flat. So that's what we're gonna do now with our clear gel. So I'm gonna pull out the one step one more time. And using my clear gel brush that I used before, I'm gonna start with a slip layer or a wet layer of gel over the whole entire surface of the nail. This really makes it easy for the gel to self-level, and it also gives it a guide of where I want the gel to go. Also helps to create a smooth finish so that there's not like a line where you applied the last blob of gel. It'll be one smooth transition on everything. All right, now I'm gonna pick up a nice dollop and I'm just going to concentrate the gel right here in the center where I want my apex. And then I just kind of tip my finger downward and just walk that gel down the center of the nail, okay? So if you kind of look at it like this, you can see I've got kind of a mohawk of gel down the center, and just let it self-level for a second. Don't mess with it too much. I just need a teeny bit more right here. And if you need more, you can grab more gel and just attach it, and then just keep it really thin right at the tip of the nail, okay? So you can see I'm starting to get that apex built up. You can also turn the fingers upside down, and you want to put the actual part of the apex that you want concentrated underneath. So I'll show you guys from this way. Okay, so I typically do it this way when I'm working on my own nails because doing a claw is the easiest. But what I can do is just barely touch the gel and just kind of perfect the shape a little bit while it's upside down. And it's also gonna concentrate that gel straight down my finger. So I'm gonna get that nice mohawk shape that I'm looking for. And now I've got that nice swoopy apex, okay? All right, so I'm gonna cure that. And then when that comes out, I'm gonna be able to clean it, finish file it, and then I'm just gonna put my top coat on. So it's really not that slow of a process, especially if you're moving through the appointment, you're getting through all the steps and you're not talking and explaining everything like I am right now. It's actually a very, very quick process. So you want to do a full cure, make sure everything is cured completely, and then we're going to finish file and do top coat. Have to have some tea, right? All right, so let's finish file. And I'm gonna clean. So I'm just gonna use some isopropyl alcohol. I like to put a little bit of acetone in my isopropyl alcohol to just help strip oils and everything. But I just clean the nail. And you'll notice when I clean, I always try and use a clean part of the wipe and then I pull downward. You wanna try and keep gel off of your skin up here. It's a good habit for anytime you're working with gel to keep it off of your skin. Also, make sure that all of your jars are covered before you do your finish filing. That's really important. And now I can start with my nail again. So I'm going to just lightly go through the surface, go through the sidewalls, but now because we have clear gel over the color, keep an eye out that you're not filing through the sides as you begin to file, but you can see already that I do have a nice apex, and before it was very flat. So now I'm getting that same type of curve, okay? And I just need to perfect the surface to make it sure it's really, really nice and smooth, but that's the whole idea here with the finish filing. All right, so I'm gonna start on the side and just go up without touching a lot of the center area, because I don't want to remove the product where it's created all that strength for me. I just kind of go through. I'm going to go and fix this part just a little bit now that I've done that. And then I'm going to go through the cuticle area. You can e-file if you want to, but I just really like hand filing gel. I find that gel is really easy to file. It's not like acrylic where I have to use an e-file to take off the majority of it. I typically only use an e-file when I'm removing gel. But yeah, sometimes I do if I'm embedding or I'm encapsulating a lot of stuff and it's got a lot of product on there, or if I'm trying to be really, really fast, sometimes I will use my e-file on the top of the gel, but I find with a few quick passes of a nail file, I'm pretty much done. Okay. And I just kind of check after I do a couple passes with my file to make sure I'm not filing through, and then just kind of perfect the overall shape. Okay. So now I've got this, and then I'm going to check from this angle as well to make sure that that looks nice when I look at it this way. If you're working on a client, it's also really important to turn their hand around and make sure that it looks good from this angle, because that's the angle they're going to be looking at it from, like so. And then also down the barrel, if you look at it this way, so I've got that concentration of gel in the center. I have a teeny bit of bulk right here and maybe right around the cuticle area, so I can take that off just a teeny bit more. Okay. All right. And then you can also look at it down the barrel this way. That'll help you see if the two edges line up underneath. I'll round it out just a teeny bit more. And I'm pretty happy with this. And the last bit I always do is I file towards myself. So if I'm looking at it this way, I put my file like this, and I file up and down, and I go all the way, and it's kind of like, it's really hard to film this, but it basically files like this. So I'm filing everything towards the tip of the nail to make it extra, extra smooth. And that's how you get rid of those humps, like where you have, like I've got the apex here, but sometimes you get a dip when you're first starting out with extensions and then you've got a big hump on the end of the nail. So by actually like filing everything into almost like a bullet, right? It's like just perfectly, perfectly smooth. It makes it so that everything comes streamlined to the tip and you're gonna get a super, super smooth finish. Okay, and just a little bit underneath and then a couple quick passes, and I just double check from all angles to make sure I'm happy. A little bit right there. All right, and then now I can clean the nail and we are going to put on our top coat. So I'm just gonna dust this off, and now we can put on our super shiny. So I'm gonna use a thin layer of super shiny top coat. This one you have to cure for 60 seconds, so keep that in mind. And I'm just going to apply, oh, okay. This in here. There we go. Okay, so you can see that glitter start to come back through once I apply it. So I just kind of do another wetting layer, just apply a nice thin coating. But because our nail already has all the strength that we need, this is just going to be a nice thin layer. And I just kind of make sure it's perfectly, perfectly wrapped around the edges, nice and smooth, and encapsulates all the color. Okay, that's it. And now I'm going to cure this for 60 seconds in the lamp. Okay, so I've cured my nail. Now I'm just going to clean it. So I just wiggle back and forth, pull down like so. And then the last step with super shiny that makes it extra, extra shiny, and this is what the Light Elegance guys taught me, is put a little bit of cuticle on. If you're working on a client, you can absolutely use a dropper instead of a brush. But you're gonna put your cuticle oil on, and then you're gonna use a clean wipe, and you're going to seek the squeak. So you're basically just gonna rub the cuticle oil in until you hear that squeaky noise. and it's gonna make it extra, extra shiny. And there you have it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Everything that you guys saw here today can be found on thenailhub.com. So if you guys are looking for the products that I used, you can find those all on thenailhub.com. Also, if you liked this video, please subscribe and like below, and I'll be in touch again with another tutorial soon. Bye, guys.